Alright, this video I gotta do this one right. Okay, where is it? Where is it? Oh, that's not it. You didn't see that. Okay. Okay. Oh, that's not it either. Alright, hang on. Where is it? Where is it? Ah, found it. You don't want to mess with me, bro. I got a sword. I think it's fake. But it's a sword, alright. This movie's about kung fu. I got a sword. Who needs fists? I got a sword, bitch. What? You don't have a katana in your room? What kind of freak are you? Hey guys, how is everybody doing? Kung Fu Panda 4 is now more closer. Wow, days go by fast when you're in school. Kind of depressing. Kind of depressing. Anyways, so I reviewed Kung Fu Panda yesterday, which you should have saw today or yesterday. I don't know. I don't know when these videos come out. So here are my thoughts on Kung Fu Panda 2. Starting off with my positives on Kung Fu Panda 2 is that I do like how we get to learn more about Po. So in the first movie, you don't really get to know much about him, but I feel you kind of get to know him a little bit more. Like I think we get to know him well, where he works at a noodle factory with his dad. He sells noodles. He loves kung fu. He wants to do kung fu. He wants to be part of the Furious Five. He wants to be friends with them and all that. Just some of that stuff is what we learn in the first movie, and I think that's good enough to learn from him. But the sequel decides to tell more about Poe and his origins, where he came from, how he started selling noodles and all that. And I've actually seen criticisms with the first movie to where people are like, this Goose can't be his dad. Everybody knows how gooses happen. They come from eggs. But these movies are from DreamWorks, and I'm not gonna complain because they made fun of Disney in the Shrek movies and they didn't get sued for it. So I'm not gonna question it. But this movie does do the funny route of actually explaining Poe's origin, and they also do like a funny scene to where his dad is talking about like where he came from, is like how goose come from or where kids come from, like from eggs. Don't ask where the eggs come from. But then you find out Poe was actually kind of abandoned, where the wolves and Shin came into his family's home and destroyed it, killed all of them, but his mother protected him and shipped him away so he wouldn't get killed or harmed. So that is what Poe's origin is, and I'm glad you get to learn more about that, especially with Shin in this movie, to where Shin, who's a great villain, who I'll talk about, to where he kind of tells him like what happened and those two fight over it and all that. It's a great origin story. It's something I never really asked for and something I didn't really need for Poe, but I felt it was necessary that they added it in there, and I was really entertained and I was curious to what was going on, but it has been a while since I last rewatched this movie, so it makes sense why I was interested because I just don't remember shit. Something that I like more about this movie than I did with the first movie is that I do like how we get to see more of the Furious Five and Poe fighting together. Now, the Furious Five in the first movie, I think, were kind of underwhelmed. They weren't really used much. They were kind of just there. They were in just scenes to, like, kind of teach Poe about Kung Fu and why he shouldn't be there and all that, just showing that these guys are great at Kung Fu and that compared to Poe. But in this movie, these guys are actually fighting together and they're actually friends. And I think their dynamic in this movie is hilarious, especially with Tigress and Poe. When those two are training together, when Poe's punching her hand on the bow, when Poe's letting out all of his anger. Dynamics like that, and when they fight side by side, especially when they're in the dragon in that one scene, that's a pretty funny sequence, and also just a great scene with those guys. I'm glad we got to see more of the Furious fight to where we actually get to know them, like them, kind of relate to them in some ways, but I don't know. That's what the sequel does better than what the first movie did. I love the Furious Five more now because when I found out Furious 5 might not be in Kung Fu Panda 4. I was like, okay, that sucks, but I might not mind. But after watching this movie and seeing the dynamic with Poe, I'm gonna miss them. I'm seriously gonna miss them in the new one. It's sad. My next positive is a huge positive and is the main reason I love this movie so much, and that is the villain in Lord Shin. Lord Shin might just be my favorite villain of the entire Kung Fu Panda series. I forget the villain's name in the third movie, but he's voiced by J.K. Simmons, I remember. Tai Lung, he's an interesting villain. I do like him, but I feel that his story and why he's a villain is pretty generic. But in this movie, this guy is dangerous. This guy will mess you up. If you even try to threaten this guy, he will just kill you on the spot. There's seriously a scene where, like, towards the end of the movie, Shin tells him to tells one of his goons to light the cannon, but then all of a sudden he turns good and all the just like in a random scene, he just says no, throws his torch down. Lord Shin does not even think twice. He just kills him on the spot. It's like, okay, well, fuck you. Like stuff like that. It's like this guy is not messing around. Lord Shin is a great villain. He is threatening. He's kind of scary in some areas because he's a messed up. And I will admit this. Growing up, I thought Lord Shin was a girl.
You serious?
If you didn't tell me Gary Oldman was the voice of Lord Shin before going into this movie, I would presume that this was a girl. I always thought that. Every time I rewatched this movie, I was like, oh, she's a cool villain. Like, I always thought Lord Shin was a girl. It looks like a girl. It looks like a girl. I'm sorry. But knowing that Gary Oldman actually voices Lord Shin, which is a great casting, and he does great in this movie, as he always does, which I'm kind of upset that he's retiring, but hey, he's up there in age. If you didn't tell me that, I would have presumed the Lord Shin was a girl. And I don't mind it. It's just, I just found out that he is a dude. Like last week. I'm not joking. Like, again, I haven't seen this movie in a while, but Lord Shin, he's a great villain. He's very threatening. He's scary. Like, there's scenes to where, like, this movie's, like, really red in areas, and it's, like, lighting up Lord Shin. This guy is terrifying. Like, he kills, like, people just like they're nothing. He kills, like, one of the most powerful kung fu masters, like, ever in the beginning of the movie, like he's nothing. And it's like, oh, I don't want to mess with that motherfucker. Another thing I think what Kung Fu Panda 2 does better than the first movie is that there's just a lot more action. From beginning to end, it's just all action. Like, this movie does not waste time setting up anything, which I'll talk about. It's just all action, all fight scenes, all just awesomeness, really. Like, Post is awesome a lot in this movie. That's his tagline in this movie. It's not skadoosh or anything, it's just awesome. And that's his tagline in this movie. And it is awesome. Like, there's scenes to where Poe and Shin are fighting, the Furious Five and Poe fighting through all the dogs and all that. Like, the action in this movie is fantastic to where it's like it makes the action in the first movie look tame now. I'm not gonna lie. I still think the action in the first movie is great, but compared to this movie, it's pretty tame. Now, I really like that they went in that direction. I really enjoy that. But I'll get to this in a moment. It does feel there should have been more story than action, but hey, I'm not gonna complain. The action in this movie, it's great, and I'm not gonna complain. It's great. Something that I really liked about watching this movie as I was watching it, this movie has a darker tone, and it might not work for a lot of people, it may not work for a lot of kids either, that they go this way, but I feel this movie has a much darker tone, and I actually like that. Being a horror fan, as I am, I don't know if you could tell, I'm a pretty big horror fan. And I do like how they went with the darker tone, especially when it comes to like the lighting. This movie's like really red. Like they use like the color red in like a lot of areas, and I like that. I honestly really like that they went that way to where it's a darker tone, and to show that they used the color red throughout this entire movie, especially with the villain with Lord Shin, who's a very frightening villain, a very scary villain. Lord Shin villain fits the tone of this movie. Yeah, sure, there's still goofy elements in this movie. There's still like laugh out loud funny moments in this movie, but it has more darker tones for more mature audiences to where there's stuff for the kids to laugh and have fun with, and then there's stuff for like the teenagers and adults with the more darker tone. Again, it might not work for everybody. I wouldn't be surprised if that was somebody's like huge like negative with this movie. I won't blame you, but being a horror fan that I am, I do like the darker tone in this movie, and I prefer it over the first movie because it's not just an animated kids movie. It has moments for the adults. Sure, the first movie has that, but I just really enjoy the darker tone in this movie. Moving on to my mixed elements, I do think that this movie does feel rushed in some areas to where they don't try to set anything up. They don't try to like explain kind of Lord Shin or anything like that, but we do get some explanation that is that like at the beginning of the movie to where he's basically a messed up dude, tried to take over everything. His family did not like him because of that, so kicked him out of his own home because of it. Which, sure, we get some explanation of what happened to Lord Shin, but I do feel that this movie did need to set up more things because this movie just felt really rushed. I don't know, it's because I was really entertained throughout the entire movie, and I'm not complaining. This movie is only an hour and 30 minutes. It's only 90 minutes long, which is not very long. It's like if they had like a huge script that was supposed to be like 2 hours long at least, but DreamWorks told them to cut it down to just keep it to 90 minutes, and so people in the theater at the time wouldn't be sitting there for 2 hours, and so some of the kids wouldn't be getting bored of the movie. It kind of feels like that, but at the same time, I was entertained throughout the entire movie to where it flew by quick because again, I honestly feel that it should have like set up more things because it just felt a little bit rushed, but it didn't really damage my enjoyment of the movie. It's just in some areas I just felt they needed to explain more or kind of talk about a certain scene, but they never do. But I don't know. It might just be me. I don't know if it's just me. I don't know if other people watch this movie and they say it doesn't feel rushed, and they do set up everything pretty good. Again, it might just be me, but in some areas I was like, well, that felt rushed. That should have been explained more. All in all, guys, I really enjoyed Kung Fu Panda 2. I might prefer it over the first movie still. I preferred it over the first movie when I was younger. I still might, I don't know, but they're very close to where I think they're both equally tied because they're both great in their own ways. But Kung Fu Panda 2 is a great sequel. It's just as good, if not a little bit better than the first movie. If you really enjoyed the first movie, then I definitely recommend that you check out Kung Fu Panda 2. It's a fun time, and just like the first movie, it's fun. But again, this movie does have a darker tone, so again, might not be for everybody, but it's still an enjoyable time. What do you guys think about Kung Fu Panda 2? Have you seen it? What do you think about it? Do you prefer it over the first movie? Do you prefer the first movie? Let me know in the comments below and we shall talk about it. If you like this video, like it. If you love to subscribe, hit the bell notifications so you will get notified for all of my latest videos. And of course, until my next video, see you all next time.